Jamaica's Copa America is over, and so is Coach Jaime Algrisom's time as head coach as the national Jamaica football team. Welcome again to Jamaican Fan, and this is the review of Jamaica's match against Venezuela, and I had 3 key takeaways from this game. So we'll start quickly with point number 1, and I call it gamblers. Alright, so starting quick with the formation and lineup. I won't spend any too long on this, and you will see why at the end of the video, because we may not see this formation or style again. Coach chat out what he's been using all tournament long, a 3-4-2-1, and saw the usual people back in place. The weight started in goal. Hector was in the middle of the field this time. Latterberg there flanked him on the right, Pinnock on the left. Damian Lowe was in midfield along with Palmer, but the key changes happened on the wing backs. Harding come in and John Bell came in for Greg Lee. Seaforth got a chance finally from the beginning up front with Antonio and Gray. Yeah, some people that wanted more of a shake-up, more of the trying out the youth in this lineup for this game that don't really mean much. But the coach also probably wanted to sign off with a good performance. And honestly, they started as if they were up for it. The game kicked off, and unlike the first 2 games, Jamaica seemed much more, relaxed and much more composed on the ball. They seemed that they were in a mood to play some good football. But just like the other 2 opponents, Venezuela and IFL still settling into their passing really much faster, and they were on the ball on the attack early on before. Again, we came under some immense pressure in that back 5, but we did enough to reduce them to any significant clear-cut chances. And they, just like their other Latin American counterparts, tried to chip away at our backline from the wings. They were trying their best to try to get the ball into Rondon, but Hector had a decent job in terms of marking him. What was so encouraging about this first half, there were momentum swings in favor of the reggaeboyz. After initial pressure, we eventually got into our own passing rhythm in the 28th minute and played some of the better football I've seen in this tournament. Coach charted a new tactical setup in which I saw that when we in possession, Latterberg there will invert into midfield. We will leave Hector and Pinnock by themselves in the back, and Palmer sitting very close to them to take the ball off them and then look to distribute. This allowed Damian Lowe now to go much higher up the pitch and much closer to Seaforth, Antonio and Gray. And why would he do such a thing? It wasn't for Lowe to create any major chances as a playmaker, but more if we lose the ball, Lowe will be very early up the field to press and try to cough up a turnover much higher up the pitch. It was pretty much working at various times in the half. A lot of times we saw we nick the ball at the Venezuelans in their own defensive third, and we're able to go on the counter much higher up the pitch. And if we just simply calm ourselves and execute our counter much better, we'd easily be 1 or 2 up. You can count Seaforth as probably the guilty party here. He has gotten numerous a bit of half chances where he was a bit too eager to pull the trigger or too eager to get the finishing pass off and see our chances spurn. But it was very encouraging to see what we can do in this setup. We were also very much gambling with that idea of having Palmer taking the ball so close to his box. A lot of times he invited a lot of the pressing from Venezuela very close to weight, and while he had some nervy moments that gave us all the heart attacks, we were able to manage to beat the press at times and play out of the back. It was very encouraging, and you wonder if there's something we can build on going forward. It was one of our best times in possession of the ball in this tournament by far. But we were competing against a better technical team on the ball, and Venezuela, being the better team on the ball, had numerous times when the momentum swing back in their favor and there were no pressing. But as I said to you, we did do well to lead back in our shape. West Hardy and Bell, who would never exactly give you the same thing that Lexa Lembakisa or Greg Lee would give you on those flanks, did a decent job of trying to hold him at bay out wide. Bell himself had a decent first half where, despite some nervous touches and missed passes, he was holding out his own as much as possible. Now let me just show you quickly in the first half stats how well we were actually matching up with the Venezuelans, because I thought it was pretty much a very even first half. In terms of possession in that first half, it was 50-50 split between the 2 teams, but Jamaica actually had 0.44 expected goals ratio, which was better than the Venezuelans. We had 6 total shots compared to their 7 total shots. And this is the best part I could find. They had 156 accurate passes, which is what 84% for the Jamaicans compared to 155 and 85% accuracy for the Venezuelans. So it's been a long time since we had such good stats in terms of ball possession and ball passing. We would have hoped to keep it going in the second half since we know football is 90 minutes, but we'll get to that next because everything basically fell apart. Point number 2, a bunch of quitters. Alright, so we had a very good first half, one of the best we had in the tournament by far, and you're encouraged to think that eventually if we just tidy up a bit in the final third, we will get that go-ahead goal and possibly get a result. But I never expected the second half would come and would have fall apart like this. As the second half started, Cephas actually came out, which was a bit of a shame because I thought he was influencing the game, and Kaim Dixon got a chance much early this time to try and see what he can do. But we mostly saw what the Venezuelans can really do, as it seemed like they got a shellacking from their coach at half time, and they came out with a much higher intensity and a much higher tempo and tried to take the game to the Jamaicans from the jump. It led to basically them controlling much of the possession. Their lines were much higher up the pitch to squeeze us deeper and deeper back into our own final third. And anytime we have the ball, they were now pressing with much more numbers. It led to us having much more difficulty at utilizing the same plan we did in the first half of playing through the press. And eventually we had less and less ball possession in our own final third. It led to the first goal really. A ball that swung from the left hand side that found an unmarked Bello at the near post that narrowed the pass weight into the back of the goal. Now when you look carefully at the replay, you feel that Bell, who was a bit of ball watching, should have tucked in a bit more and caused more pressure on Bello right there. You could also maybe think, if possible, if Wade could have done better to try and get that ball, but I won't necessarily blame him for this one. He probably thought his defensive line got it covered. So it was 1-0 for the Venezuelans, and honestly at this point the Jamaicans call it quit. We basically played nothing ball from there. The Venezuelans kept the pressure going, kept the possession, and kept their attacks on target. We honestly seem that we have given up in this game. While Palmer tried his best to still get the ball and distribute it, I didn't see much people trying to find himself in spaces or try to run behind the back line of the Venezuelans. Dixon himself was having a tough time. Each time he has the ball, he has to do contend with 2 white shirts, and he has quickly learned how high the international level can be. But what was more damning is just how easy that second goal and third goal came about. Once the Venezuelans got past our initial press, they just simply make one pass up the gut and they were able to know in and goal. Rondon was able to shrug off Hector on display here. I would have hoped Hector would be stronger, but you could even argue that Wes Harding could have read the danger a bit earlier and slid over to help his centre back. But their third goal was a bit more unprofessional, honestly. A bit of lazy play by Lowe, who was part of the back three at this point, to step up in time to not leave Ramirez onside, and now he got in and goal again. Another ball up the gut through the midfield. Now, based on how they played in that second half, you could say Venezuelans were full value for their victory, but I just wish we didn't exactly just give up and let it so easy for them of a decent first half performance. Honestly, it don't even make sense to speak about any tactical or personal changes the coach could have done. It was clear that the team was ready to go home. Which all lead me now to point number 3, the future. Alright, so before the game even got out of the way, there was an article that was published in the Observer that the coach himself and the Jamaican Football Federation was heading to a divorce. It outlined a variety of reasons for this, things like they don't see eye to eye on youth development and stuff like that. I won't get into it too much, but it seemed that the coach was really on his way out. And some hours after that match, we got confirmation. It's now confirmed that Coach Grimmy is out the door. It seemed to be a mutual termination of contract, and now we have to look to the future. Now, there's been rumors that we could go back for Paul Hall, which I honestly don't see it happening, or get the former West Brom coach Darren Moore to come and lead the team. But whoever we get, it is probably the best time to really do so, as that next World Cup qualifier is not until next year June, and they would have some National League matches to basically practice and get their philosophy in place. But it's a bit sad and perplexing what happened to Coach Grimmy. At the start of the year, we heard no one really saying that they wanted him to resign or wanted him to be fired. He led us into a COPA AMERICA qualification with that win in Canada. Then he led us to the third place finish in the Nations League, and everything seemed to be rosy. Yes, the team never exactly dominated their World Cup qualifiers, but we still got 6 points out of the way. And yes, we did not exactly play the greatest we could play in this Copa America, despite doing decent in 2 halves of a match. But again, you don't expect to see the likes of Venezuela or Ecuador in World Cup qualifiers. So it is a bit of a sad ending to Coach Gribby's tenure, and it's hard to picture how it all came apart on the seams. But that's his football. We have to move again in terms of how the future lineup can look like. We saw some of the youngsters got a chance. We saw Kaim Dixon get a better chance here. And, you know, he had a difficult time, as I stated. He will quickly learn that these defenders at the international levels are a different class. But the likes of other French players on the team, we saw more of Palmer again. I did like Palmer trying to control the tempo in that midfield. But you do question maybe Bobby Reid is better suited for that. But we expect to see more of Palmer again. Wes Harding was back in the team after some time out. And honestly, he was a bit invisible throughout the entire game. He didn't come forward much, and while he did do some work on the defensive side, they also got past him numerous times. While John Bella had a more interesting game, he had a few bright moments in that first half, while I didn't see much of him in that second half, and I think he could have done a bit better on that first goal. Cephas himself again show what he can do with his pace and directiveness, but again lacking in that final third execution. While Gray is still the main man I feel for this team, but you feel that he was lacking much sharpness thanks to his injury for these Copa America matches. But overall, it was a very disappointing Copa America, and it left us without any points and any head coach. Alright, so as usual, before we run out of here, just look at what Football stated was our best player on the day. And it's no surprise we didn't talk about him until this point with a 6.8 rating. Again, he didn't score a goal, but this man was everywhere, and he can finally put to bed his whole idea if he's fighting for the shirt and his level of commitment. He played 67 minutes this time. He had 12 out of 17 accurate passes. He had 1 chances created, 1 total shot, and it was off target. He had 28 touches, by far one of his lowest in the 3 matches. He had 2 out of 2 successful dribbles, 2 passes in the final third, and 1 accurate long passes. He was also only dispossessed only 1 time. But funny enough, he even put in a shift defensively. He had 1 out of 1 tackles, 1 clearance, 1 eddy clearance, and he made 4 recoveries. As I said to you, he was everywhere. Sometimes you even saw him covering for Bell in that left wing back position. But some would argue him doing so much would divide him from being in that 18-yard box to finish some chances. And honestly, if you look at his goal ratio, they may have a point. But he fought for the badge, and there's nothing more you can ask of him. I won't get into who was necessarily the worst rated team member this time, because honestly, based on the second half, the entire team didn't play so well. So we'll just simply move on to what we feel is a few positives we can take away from this Copa America. That second half against Ecuador when the chips were down was a good encouragement, and then how we started this game against Venezuela, taking more risks and gambling, but doing much better in terms of ball possession and passing, is also a room of encouragement. It clearly shows why these players may not be the best at their craft. There are tools there we can use. Another positive I could take away from this game is the emergence of Jamali Waite. Andre Blake is our number 1 and captain, and a long time we have not seen anybody else but him stand up for us in a major tournament. So there are a few that was a bit worried about the likes of Jamali Waite taking over for him, especially when Blake finally called it quits in his international career. But Waite was one of the few bright spots in this tournament. But based on the first 2 matches, you expect him to be the future number 1. But that's it, honestly. We are out again, as I stated, demolished by Venezuela here, 3-0. And we honestly have to look forward to Nations League in September. We also have to look forward to finding out how the new head coach will be. And anybody that comes in, there's hoping he does a better job with connecting with what the fans want, what the players want, and what the JFF wants. But anyway, guys, that's it from here from Jampiel Fan. If you're new here, please like, subscribe, and share. And if you want to see how this 2024 Copa America campaign, basically compared to our last one in 2016, this is the right video for you. Otherwise, keep it locked right here at Jampiel Fan. YouTube, big up yourself.